I will make this one short. I got this game because of its side-scrolling action, but was surprised to find that there is more to this. But, as you can see, this is a low-budget game developed by Brianode, whatever, and published by Eroge Japan. Now, since I couldn't find any other information, Sword Incubus seems to be the very first game developed by Bria something. And if this is true, then they actually did a fine job. Well, if you take it for what it is. And publisher Eroge Japan, yeah, the word Eroge says a lot, has been around for a few years, but this is the first game I have played published by them. So you are Amila, a princess of a country that has been invaded by demons. With the help of an incubus-possessed sword, your job will now be to save the land. Well, essentially that's what everything boils down to, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just rather very cliché and doesn't have anything noteworthy to mention. And for that, okay, it's fine, I guess. But honestly, this game doesn't score points with its story at all. You can literally see how low budget the game actually is. This also isn't a bad thing, at least not if you don't mind it. I personally don't care if the game is low budget or not, as long as it works and it's fun. So visually this game works fine, and the focus obviously is Amila herself, to the point where sadly everything else looks rather bland. Well, maybe outside of these chicks. Just looking at the jiggles or the different costumes you can unlock, then you know what actually makes this game, right? Of course you do. After all, it's pretty obvious, but since I am a cultured brother, I enjoy this kind of stuff. The version you are seeing here is the Nintendo Switch version, and since this game was released on Steam as well, it would not surprise me if the Steam version showed way more nudity. I haven't played that version, but if this is the case, of course that would be censorship and obviously wrong. Outside of the cultured aspect of the game, what also makes Sword Incubus actually is the gameplay. While this is a side-scrolling action game at heart, it still has RPG elements because you level up, increase your stats, learn new powerful attacks, etc. And sure, it's quite a nice system, even though it didn't really need it. Because once you can't get past an enemy or a boss, you can just simply level up a few levels and then have an easy life beating everything. From my point of view, that seems like a cheap way to make life easier for the player, because that decreases the skill level needed to beat a stage or a boss or an enemy. But maybe that's just me. I would just have preferred to not have RPG elements in a side-scrolling game, because these RPG elements basically don't force you to get good, bruh. But since the system is here already, okay, the system works quite fine. However, it's just way too easy to level up and upgrade. This aspect should have at least been toned down a bit to make it a bit more grindy. Not annoyingly or unnecessarily grindy, that's not what I'm saying. But just grindy enough to the point where you feel like you've earned those levels and upgrades, because as is, it doesn't feel like you've earned all those levels and the XP you've gained. You will learn quite a few skills as well, and here's where the game actually shines a bit more. With a vast variety of skills to learn, the game actually turns into a fun experience. And using them actually feels quite satisfying. Well, almost. Because the controls can be rather annoying. In a genre like this, you will need to react rather fast, but here's the thing. The animations of certain attacks always have to completely finish before you can start a new move. While that isn't a problem in itself, sometimes it seems like there is either 1 second delay or the character doesn't even want to react at all until you press the buttons again. Like here, I constantly had problems just turning around because it feels like the game simply ignored my button input. Maybe I pressed the buttons too fast or whatever, and thus the game doesn't understand what I want to do, but this is the first game where I ever encountered this issue to this degree. I never had this kind of problem with other side-scrollers, so it's weird I experience it here. One nice touch, however, aren't just the costumes, but that your current costume gets ripped apart according to the damage you take. But nah, no nudity. An even nicer touch is that if you go to the status screen, Amila actually shows her current condition. That was really nice. But it's a bit sad that she always has her standard costume on in her status screen, no matter what costume you are wearing during gameplay. But hey, it's fine, I guess. The difficulty can also be a bit unbalanced. Especially the last boss is a nightmare compared to everybody else. That would be fine even with his large HP bar, but the problem mainly comes from the fact that you have to fight this giant thing and for the most part jump to be even able to do any kind of damage, and you have to be dead center to even hurt him. So this will get really annoying really fucking fast, always having to jump like a fucking idiot to even do damage. I always hated enemies that have to be fought this way, because it just limits you as a player and what you can do. But I guess ultimately though, this wasn't a bad game at all. Well, for what it is.